Thanks, Eva, for joining me. My name is Kevin Anyango, the founder of Mtandao University School of Sourcescapes. The platform talks about those behaviors or characteristics that employers are looking for. But today I'm not alone. Today I am with one and only Edith. Edith, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I appreciate your time. Ed, I'm going to say that having you here has taken a while, isn't it? You're a very busy lady, so to speak.
Yes, the world doesn't stop turning. There's so many things, very many moving parts, but I'm very happy to be here finally.
And well, thank you. And so you run Ecotourism Kenya?
Yes, I do. I'm a team lead there.
Please carry on. Please carry on.
No, I was just saying, yes, I do. Yeah, I work at Ecotourism Kenya as a team lead, as a CEO.
And that's international. The company basically sells Kenya, or do you look after tourism in Kenya?
So Ecotourism Kenya is a civil society organization. It's actually a membership association. And so what we do is we promote sustainable tourism practices. And to just put it simply, because I mean, what are sustainable tourism practices? Basically, we encourage the tourism sector to develop a thoughtful mindset and just have leadership in terms of changing how tourism is looked at and how we can draw the connections between conservation, communities, and tourism itself. And it's in drawing these connections that we're able to have a more sustainable tourism product and experience.
I go straight to the point. So you work mostly with people?
Absolutely. And those soft skills or human skills that you're talking about, we need them every single day for everything that we do.
Can you train personality?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say personality, but I would say you can train for leadership. And then the leadership will develop certain characteristic traits. And that you can now say is the personality of the individual eventually. Some people argue that, you're born with a certain type of personality and, you can develop skills that can enhance the positive aspects of that. So I think you can actually develop whatever skill set you have as your natural subset. You can build on it and do something different and better. And I think that's the core tenet of leadership. If you want to be an effective leader, then you need to not be taught, but to be groomed in certain ways of behaving and ways of conducting yourself that will increase your effectiveness, really.
Wow. So you mentioned two things there, grooming and behavior, and I want to call behavior as work ethics, isn't it? And now, there was I just trying to look for that that statement. There was a clip going around the internet a few days ago concerning work ethics, and this particular person was mentioning how nowadays people don't care about work ethics. It's all about, I want to make it a period. You don't really care how you treat your colleagues, or whether you can report something bad is happening. So what I'd like to ask you is, so does work ethic actually matter? It doesn't matter if I have a job.
Does work ethic work if you don't have a job? Is that what you're saying?
No, does it matter? Or it doesn't, as long as I've got the role, it doesn't matter how I behave. I've got the job, I've got the contract.
Well, you'll have the rank, you'll have the position, but you won't have the leadership to be able to effect change. You'll be able to call the shots on certain things, but you won't be able to effectively occupy that position. And that will eventually reduce your your effectiveness. I think when you occupy a position, the reason that you would stay there and the reason that you'd be effective and the reason that you'd be a good team player is because you have developed certain traits in terms of how you relate to others. Because you didn't rise to a rank where you're just working by yourself in a silo. You have to relate to other people. And if you're not able to relate to them effectively, then eventually, unless you become a dictator, you're not actually going to be effective and continue to rise and continue to effect change. I think people forget, they want to rise in the ranks, but they don't want the responsibility. And that's where the issue comes in. And that's where you have poor leaders or people in leadership positions, but they're not effective.
That's interesting. Talking about ranks, if I go back to, let's say, at the graduate level, someone just finished university and coming out now, they want to get into career and start. Where do they learn work ethics from? If you don't have that experience, is it learned in school, at home, or do they learn when you've got the job?
When you come into the workplace, we're assuming that you come with a certain set of skills. You've gone to school, you've learned something, so you're technically adept to carry out the position for which you've been hired. For example, if I'm hiring somebody, I want to know that they have the skills to occupy that position. Yes. So that's done away with. But that is the least of the things that I look for. The thing I'm really looking for is, will they fit into our culture? And even if you're fresh out of college, I can still see whether you can fit into our culture. If I ask you about what you're reading, if I ask you about how you would respond in certain situations, because that's what's going to cause the difference. And that's what's going to make your skill set be able to effect change. Because people want you in a position so that you can advance whatever that business is advocating for or is trying to achieve, their vision and their mission. So if you don't fit into that culture, then you're not going to be able to effect change. Your skills are not important at that stage. It's what you can add on that now brings the value.
Well, talk about the add-on. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but you look quite young. So how did you make it then? Just very blank, as I can't guess, actually, I think, if you ask me, but I want to go there. So I suppose, how did it happen for you?
I'll say that initially, my very first job, and it's a very interesting conversation I usually have with interns. I was an intern for 1 year, unpaid. I repeat, unpaid for 1 year, and I had to report at 8 and leave at 5. So it was very interesting. But that journey taught me so many things, so many skills in terms of timekeeping, in terms of integrity, in terms of loyalty, empathy, and I was not being paid a cent. And that helped me fit into my next, the subsequent jobs, and also helped me identify what I was interested in and where I wanted to apply for jobs. But because I had been employed for a year and because I had grown, I had been groomed by those who were full-time employees, my boss and everyone, and this was the East African Wildlife Society. It was fantastic. By the time I was leaving, I was representing the organization as an intern, an unpaid intern within the East African region. And that now put me on a platform where I could then apply for the next job and the next job and the next job. Then I was noticed and people started saying, hey, look, we have this opening. And it's women, actually, a lot of women have given me have opened the doors for me and helped me step into positions that I've been able to occupy. And so I've been very, very grateful, but also the grooming helped. The decision that I made at the beginning to go into an unpaid internship position was key. You have to take that first step. You have to decide what's important to you. You have to be ready, willing, and open to learn. And then you've stepped into the brook and you're part of the flow, and then people begin to notice you.
Who advised that? Whose mind was that, Eddie? Who made you actually do the internship? Was it a home parents? Was it you?
My dad was like, you can't sit at home, so I guess it was him. But I also knew that I have an education, I have finished, I need to look for a job. And I want to work at this particular place. And I didn't have a problem being an intern. It was really interesting. And I was learning every single day. East African Wildlife Society has a lot of moving parts, and a lot of things were happening, and it was just exciting. I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I learned so much. To this day, the connections that I have within conservation were birthed from there, because this is the same people.
Well, you're CEO of a particular company now, so are you paying interns now?
Yes, we pay interns. Yes, we do pay interns. Yes, we do. Simply because as an employer now, you see, when I was an intern, I was fortunate that my dad would drop me because it was on the way to his place of work, and in the evening I'd go home by bus. But there are people who can't afford to just come to the office. I mean, they live very far, or they just simply can't afford it. And in this day and age, I think there's so many unemployed youth. We want to be in a position where we are able to facilitate everyone coming to the workplace. And sometimes they just need bus fare just to get there. And once they're there, they just perform and shine, and they've gone on to do amazing things.
So what do you tell those young people that listen to us right now and have got this perception, or actual perception, they have this reality where hakuna kazi, there's no job? But what do you tell them now?
There's work. I mean, there's several things you can do. It's just hard. It might be the type of job that they're looking for. If you want a white collar job, those are very few, and most of them are saying that's what they want. But there's always an opportunity to make or create a job opening for yourself. But the other thing I also find is that we have not been fair to a lot of the people who are graduating now, because we don't prepare them for the workplace. We don't prepare them for the rigor that it takes to enter the workplace. If you're going to enter a fast-moving street, if you're a driver and you're on the slow lane, you want to join a highway, you have to use the acceleration lane to increase your speed so that you can match the speed of the cars that you're going onto in the lanes that you're going to join. We don't prepare a lot of our graduates for the workplace. They want the positions, but they don't want the responsibility. And we have to groom them and tell them, look, you have to grow. You have to grow to be able to occupy a certain position and be effective. It's not just about the money. They'll come in and they say, I don't want less than 50. I don't want less than 100. 100 for what? 50 for what? What do you bring to the table? And what mindset do you have? Are you going to grow? It's not how much I'm going to pay you. It's how much you're going to be able to put in, and how much you're going to be able to transform yourself and fit into what we want to achieve.
Well,
I think some people come in with a lot of self-entitled dispositions. But having said that, I think sometimes it's really, really hard to get jobs. I know people who have been looking for work, they've been applying, but they say, well, I'm not going to do any free work as an intern because, that's slavery. And if that is your mindset, I have a problem with that. But if you're saying I can't be an intern because I can't afford to go to my workplace, that's very different. Those are two different things, yeah.
So you talk about mindset. So where should they get that mindset from? Listen, you and I can sit here, use nice words because somebody will pay our salary at the end of the day. But for those that are just graduating, Eddie, and you talk about the mindset, where should they get that mindset from? Is it from school or is it them?
I think as an individual, surely you have a mind. You don't need someone to. You need to decide what's important to you. You need to decide that you want to be part of making a change, or part of growing something, or part of improving on something, or part of effecting something. And if you're going to do any of those things, you cannot come in with the mindset of, I want to get. You need to be having the mindset of, I want to give. Once that's the the focus that you have, that you want to give, not get, then you become more empathetic, you become more of a team player, become more loyal, you become more, you have more integrity because you're giving, you're not getting. And if you look at the people in teams that people say, oh, I like to work with so-and-so. Why do you like to work with so-and-so? Well, they will always give me good feedback. They'll always do their work on time. If they're not going to be able to meet their targets, they'll let me know. Those are things that are given. Those are not things they're taking. And if you ask them the reverse, why don't you like working with someone? Or they're very domineering. They take too much time to do things. They are not pleasant. You know, little things like that
Yes.
then make the workplace difficult. Give, if you have a mindset of giving, and nobody has to teach you that. You come out with your degree, and that degree, you're saying, okay, I have this, and I want to give. You're not saying, I have this, give me. It's very, very, very different.
I like that. Please carry on. I really like that statement. That, you know, it's not about get but give. Wow, interesting. So Ed, if someone comes to you right now and they say that, you know, I don't have work and I'm struggling to find employment, will you tell this person to go and create your own job?
Not necessarily, no. I think everybody's situation is different. You can look at the individual and say, well, what have you tried? What did you study? What are you interested in? Where have you tried? And then looking at that whole process, sometimes people don't really, they studied one thing, but their interest is in a totally different thing, and they're applying for a third different line of work. And so there's a disconnect. And they're not doing it effectively because they cannot join the dots.
Yeah.
Initially, when you enter the workplace, the thing that you're bringing is whatever you studied. And that's all we have to go on. And your enthusiasm, that's all we have to go on. But if you're not able to sell yourself in that way, then we won't know what you have to offer. But everybody's journey is different, and just looking at, you need to have a conversation with the person and say, what have you tried? What is working? What is available to you? What is within your reach, right? Don't overreach initially. Just try and see what's within your reach. And just going back, while you were in school, what did you do? Did you join a club? Did you have activities during the weekend that you were taking part in? If you didn't have it then, you don't miraculously come into the workplace and have anything to give. If you were never a giver before, you can't be a giver when you come to the place of work. You'll be a taker.
Wow. Somebody told me the other day that actually the problem is not just graduates, but also the middle managers. So people that report to you, they don't create opportunity for other people. Would you agree that in your industry, for instance?
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, when you look at, like in the tourism industry, you really need to be able to nurture your teams. You need to be able to groom them to be able to deliver on the promise of your facility, of your tour operation, of your destination. So when you're grooming them, you're passing on a skill. And if you're not able to pass on that skill, you're just asking them to deliver, you're taking. You're still asking them to deliver, but you're not showing them how. You're not doing it in a way that engenders uptake. They can't see anything in you, so they're not even able to emulate. And that just perpetuates a problem. So they say, so when I get into that position, all I have to do is just bark at people and just have them figure it out somehow and plunder and plonk along and sort of work it out, rather than you being the poster child of how things should be done. Not perfect, but you're still the poster child of how things can be done.
Well,
you have to groom people.
Now, talk about grooming. You can groom someone that wants to be groomed, isn't it? Someone that wants to be mentored. It could be easier to kind of show the direction if they want to. But that is interesting. Can you work with somebody that you don't like, but they're qualified? Well, actually, don't forget about that. Let me ask you this: can you train someone to be likable?
Can you train someone to be likable?
Yes.
If they're willing, absolutely.
But you cannot. because when you said this conversation, you said, well, you're a team leader, you lead ecotourism, and I want to assume you work with people that you like, isn't it? It's very hard to kind of talk to somebody you don't really like. I mean, I don't know him. I'm asking you. So can you work with someone that you don't like?
Yes, I can work. I've worked with very many people that I don't like. You don't have to like them. You don't have to like people. You just need to be. And let me back up. You see, you might not. What's the reason for you not liking them? Are they brash? Do they have different points of view to you? Are they ineffective in their work? Maybe you don't. Those are the things you maybe don't like, right? But you still work with them because you can always create a situation where it's activity oriented. We need to achieve this particular goal, and these are the steps to achieve it, and this is how we're going to work in order to achieve that goal. And it takes a lot of maturity and also the ability to deal with difficult situations and difficult people. That's a skill, and that's a skill that you learn. And because you're never ever going to like everyone you work with, absolutely not. And even if they're nice people, you might just have different views, and so you don't want to marinate yourself in their views for too long, but you just keep them at bay, but you have a working relationship. That's maturity.
But you said, or you told me just before the recording, as a team player, you want people that can fit in, not
yes
in your personality, but in your team, really. And I think that's what I'm trying to connect that to likability. So when you're doing interviews, you can already know, oh, this person cannot really fit on my team.
Yeah.
Just the way they talk, the way they dress, the way they ask questions at the interview level. And that's why I'm asking whether you can actually train somebody when they go for an interview to have like nice personality. I don't know whether I call that fake or not, but that's what I'm trying to ask you. So you don't think that likability is important when it comes to looking for work?
Likability is important, but it's not crucial. It's important, but it's not crucial. And the reason I say this is you can have somebody who is it's easy to like people who are outgoing and pleasant and nice, and they're easy to be around. But you might have somebody whose disposition is very one word. Did you finish coding? They're usually IT. I'm just saying. Did you finish the coding? Yes, I did. We have a problem. Yes, I'll look into it. There was some strings that I needed to look at and redo. I don't know. Let me not speak that jargon because I'll look like an idiot. But they're not pleasant. You don't imagine that you'll sit down with them and say, "Hey, how are you, Tom? How are you doing?" Yes. They're not necessarily likable, but you can work with them. You see, when we interview, we say, "What is the position? What do we need for it to be effective? And can this person occupy this position and still help us meet our vision and mission?" And it's very subjective at the interview stage because you don't really know the person. You only know what they're telling you. But there's some ways you can ask questions, and especially about what they do in their spare time, what they like, how they would handle certain situations that bring out little snippets of who they are. And I must say, for us, at the place I used to work at, the business I co-founded, EED Advisory, it was so easy to see through the interview process who would fit in. And sometimes we got it right. Most of the times we got it right. Very few times we didn't get it right. But there were also situations, I must say, where somebody came in and they were a good technical fit, but not a good cultural fit. Yeah. And with time, they grew into the culture and they changed. And yes. They became both the good technical fit and the good cultural fit. And they became some of our most valuable employees. And that happens everywhere I've ever worked. You can actually change the way the person fits into a culture, but they should not be very far removed from what you really need. Yes. They should just be a close enough fit.
So people should be teachable, isn't it? When you're looking for, it doesn't matter who you are, what position you're looking for. but you must have that attitude. I want to learn, isn't it?
Absolutely. You really need. I mean, you know, you said, can you teach people to be likable? To be tolerable? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It was live show. This is to happen. And actually, I'll take that advantage and say, for those that are just joining us, this is Mtandao Varsity School of Soft Skills podcast, and I'm talking to Edith, who runs Ecotourism Kenya, and she's based in Nairobi. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, I know you asked my name. Great. So I can see confirm where you are at. Well, listen, Edith, I don't take much of your time. Interesting. Now, so you're talking about culture and where you can actually train people, help people to fit in with a particular culture, not necessarily to fit in the personality, but in a team, isn't it? So this attitude, there are normally, I know in Swahili, wanasema utadu. You know, for example, you know, if you know that, you know, I was brought in here by Edith, who is the CEO, so I don't care what the watchman tells me. And also, even if I don't have a godfather, but because I got this job through, because of my skills and what I know, my experiences, so I come at work with that mentality, you know, I come and do my job. Where is that culture coming from, and how can you stop that culture? Because it is there.
Yeah, I think people sort of mirror what they've seen, especially if you're a new entrant into the workspace, and what you've seen is that there's a lot of patronization in terms of, if someone brought you in, you're untouchable. If the boss likes you, you're untouchable. If somebody comes into that culture, they begin to mirror what they see. So I think the toxicity is not necessarily in the entrant, but in the culture they've found already. And so that continues to perpetuate, because the person then goes and tells friends and other people, oh, you know where I am, nobody can touch me because you see I was brought in by X. And I don't think it's necessarily the entrant's fault. It's the culture that has been developed. And the good thing about that is a culture can be changed, right? And the people who are in the culture can then begin to have a different mindset and have, you know, different ways of behaving, and not have this utadu kind of attitude. But it's also in the and that is a microcosm. That mirroring what's happening in the business is a microcosm of what is happening in society, because it's every little business is like a microcosm of the society. And so if you're going to have many of those doing the same thing, then it just perpetuates a problem that will persist. But if you're going to nip it in the bud, then you have to look at those organizations and say, look, in this organization, we don't tolerate this kind of thing. We are based on integrity and honest and effective good work.
As a lady, and obviously, you know, in my eyes, the very success you've done, you know, you've had a very inspiring career, I've got to say, at what you do. But as a lady, I want to assume that sometimes you might be in a place where it's just you, surrounded by men. So what do you tell those young women just finishing university or finishing high school, want to come to place of work and aspire to be like Edith? What do you tell them when it comes to standing for what they want and not compromise themselves for the sake of getting an employment?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part. People manage themselves instead of getting into employment.
For example, you find nowadays that, you know, if a lady wants opportunity, and most of the time they're being asked, what can you give? You know, people take advantage of themselves. So what I'm trying to ask you is, you being where you are right now at that particular rank, there are lots of people that are working towards where you are at. So a young lady, you know, just finished university, you know, wants to get into a career where it's dominated by men. What do you tell them?
Go for it. It doesn't matter. Go for it. You know, because I mean, people keep saying, oh, you know, this is a male-dominated industry. Go for it. It won't be easy, because when you're the minority, it's never easy. If you're the only woman of color in a place, it's just different. You're the person who will stand out. If you're the youngest person on a board, which happened to me, and when
I
we're
was going
just
to say
two.
that. Now, and just on the board, that good part. So how did that happen to you, Ed? So someone spotted your skill, or did you apply for this particular role, or you had a good father somewhere?
I wish I had a godfather. I'd be so far. Oh my goodness, I need a godfather. To people, any godfathers out there, I am here. I'm willing, ready. No, I don't. I haven't. Let me tell you what I've had. I've had. I can honestly tell you that the board appointments, I didn't. I was asked to give my CV, and I did. But you see, if you're going to say there's a godfather, it was actually a lady, and she's actually younger than me. I don't know if you can be a godfather if you're female and younger than the person, but she just asked for my CV and said, we've been asked to give recommendations from the industry. Send me your CV. I sent the CV. She didn't tell me what it was for. And later I was teaching. I used to teach Pathfinders, which is a scout group in our church, and we had gone swimming. So my husband calls me and tells me, "You've been appointed." I was like, "Appointed what?" And so that was how surprising it was. I didn't lobby for it. Not that there's anything wrong with that. By the way, there's nothing wrong with lobbying for a position that you want.
Right.
As long as you're skilled, go for it. Why not? Go for it. It's only when people are put into positions and they don't have a skill set, they don't have the mindset to grow whatever they've been put in. They just want to, get allowances and move on with their lives. But there's always someone who will look out for you. And you see, if somebody asks me, we're looking for somebody to sit on a board, and I have been asked before, we need somebody to sit on this board, or I'm looking for a manager, can you recommend anyone? I don't then sit in the position of a godfather. I sit in the position of a facilitator. I say, oh, I know somebody, she can do it. I know somebody, he can do it. I've recommended them. I'm a facilitator, I'm a recommender, I'm not a godfather. But if people want to think there's a godfather behind everything, go ahead, be cynical. Do you?
But Eddie, why don't you see this kind of faces? When I say face, I mean women. There are lots of people like you running amazing organizations. People in blue chips businesses, but we don't necessarily see these faces. Why is that?
We don't see them.
Yeah, we don't see women like for example yourself. You've worked on a very, very high level, if you see what I mean. But we rarely hear about you guys. Most of the time, it's all about men. You see them on TV. Interviews about men, politicians. Men. So why are people like you not the public?
It depends on which pond you're swimming in, because the pond I swim in, I hear about a lot of women doing amazing things.
But we don't read about them.
They might, sorry?
But we don't read about them.
In mainstream media, they're
Yes.
there. They're absolutely there. They're absolutely there. I think people need to, they haven't been there in the forefront as much, I must say, but they're there. And maybe we could be more vocal and more visible, but I think it's more important to be more effective. I don't have to be vocal and visible. I need to be effective. And that's where transformation takes place. And a lot of women are very transformation oriented and transformation driven. And that sometimes doesn't need to shout. It just needs to show its results. And so if you're saying that women being more visible would be good for them, probably for other women to see that
yes,
there's a woman in this position, but maybe not very necessary for them to be effective, I think.
But I've got a daughter with me. She's 3 years old now, and when they see spaces of people like you, or let's say, or just women who are working at the highest level, women who work at the highest level, you know, they're like, oh, actually, this can be done by a woman, so actually I can do that by as well. I'm not just saying we're not just even in the white collar job, but even the trade jobs. For example, you know, mechanic or driver, whatever it is, a policewoman, whatever it is. If we see them very often, we kind of start thinking, actually, it's not special. You know, anyone can do whatever they want. They can be whatever they want to be because you've seen other people have done it before.
Yeah, no, I think so. But then I want to also refute the point that the women are not visible. The earlier point I made was that you don't need to be visible to be effective. That's I stand by that. But there's so many women. Look at the leadership in international organizations. Look at where Kenyans have gone. Kenyan women are leading. Look at government. The very critical positions that women are occupying right now. If you say you're not seeing them, perhaps you need to look again, because there are a lot of women. In fact, for me, this is such an exciting time to be a woman and to be in a position, in any position really, because you're able to tap into a network of so many women. And me, in my lived experience, I have had the support of women that is just amazing. In fact, it's funny because many of my mentors tend to be men, but the people who lift me into the next position in terms of mentioning my name in a room where decisions are being made, or making me aware of an opportunity, have all been women, without exception. All have been women. And so for me, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I feel maybe it's the networks I'm in, but they seem to be, there's a rising movement of women and professionals, just even women and men, a whole cross-pollination of people who are willing, ready, and able to help each other. And I think that's really, really, really exciting, because you're realizing that, you know, your network is your your net worth is your network. It's been said so many times, but it's so true. So true.
Wow. I like the way you put that. Your network's your network. That is touching, and it's very inspiring as well. So rather look at the godfathers who can give you what, you look at, you know, how do you build your network, isn't it? Now,
absolutely.
Last question for me, or last thing I want to ask you is about mentorship. So two things. Don't you think mentorship is overrated?
Oh no, absolutely not. It's the most crucial thing, because you know what we were talking about was that when you enter into a network, your value in the network, because you're part of a network, you're not there standing as an observer and picking people and saying, I want you to help me. Your value in a network is what you can give. That means you groom. That means you mentor. And then somebody else will then groom you. So it's when you're in a network, you're giving and receiving. Mentorship is not overrated. I think it's underrated. I think it's also not even done as effectively as it should, because mentorship is not just having a mentor. It's also having a work environment where there's peer mentorship. There's you have mentors come in and grow the organization and the people. They grow their thinking, because if your mindset has to be, it has to be I feel like for anyone to grow, even if you're in the best network and you have access to resources that are just phenomenal, if you don't have a thoughtful and growth-oriented mindset, you'll never be a leader and you'll never be a change agent. Yeah, but you need to be grown. Everybody's grown. Everybody's groomed. Everybody is developed. Everybody's mentored. Yeah, I just think we need to broaden it. It's not overrated.
A fresh graduate comes to you. So a fresh graduate comes to you, and well, maybe they're part of the network. So do they also have something to offer?
Sorry, say again?
So you said that, I know when it comes to mentorship, you must have something also you're giving, not just receiving, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So if I am a fresh graduate, I don't have really that much of work experience, and I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm like, But what can I give Edith? I want what she has. How can I support her for her to be my mentor?
I think you have your raw skill set in terms of your technical ability, which I referred to earlier, but
Yes.
you also have your innate skills. Maybe you're very good at developing teamwork. Maybe it's something you don't yet know, but I think it's something that you need to continually work at. Look, we're competing with, and it's a global village that we're in right now, right? We have children let's look at private school and public school. We have in private school, from the minute you enter, when you're in playgroup, you're told, Tommy, you need to share your toys. You need to be, Tommy, you're going to be the leader today. Even when Tommy is 6 years old, there's a rotational, my children in school where there's a rotation of when you're head boy or head girl. So every child gets to be head boy or head girl for a week. And they wear the badge and they practice leadership skills. You need to be able, make the children line up and put their hands behind their back when they're going to the toilet. It's a small thing, but you're growing leadership, right? Those are the people we are in private school that you're competing against as public school. So public school, you just come to school and you're yelled at and shouted at. I'm not saying all of it. I'm not saying all public schools, so don't get me wrong. But there are schools, even in private schools, you can have that. But what I'm saying is you can have schools where people are nurtured from the very beginning to have little leadership things. And then by the time they're coming in and I'm employing them, I find that they have innate skills.
Yes.
When I was in university, I remember there was somebody who said she had been a bartender. She put that in her CV. And then she said, when they said skills attained from being a bartender, she said dealing with difficult people, ability to organize schedules, ability to develop purchasing lists and all that. She was able to pull out from being a bartender all the skills that she had learned. For us, you see, if you're going every holiday, you go up country and you farm. I don't know, you can never think that those are transferable skills, but they are. They are. Put that in your CV. Say that's what you did. Those are the people we look for. That's how, when we're interviewing, we say, what do you do during your holidays? What skills do you bring? We don't see the value in that. We want to be asked, where did you go? Which office did you go to? And those are the skills we consider relevant. And those are not the relevant skills necessarily.
Well, I'm glad we mentioned that. And actually, I was going to ask you, there's a time you're talking about your chat and the scouts and stuff like that. These are things that people don't talk about. And I think it's very, very important to repeat this, that when it comes to writing a CV, it's not just about academics and just your line of work. There are few things that put them in as well. Like, for example, working in your church, actually we're talking about. So Eddie, now, wow, this is interesting. So where can young people hear this? What you're telling me now here, I can put in my hands and say, I never had this in school, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So where can we get all this information from? Not just information, but these things you're talking about. Where should young people look at to get them from?
Like I said, it starts here with the mindset. If you have a mindset to give, you will see opportunities everywhere. Small opportunities that then develop into something bigger. We've seen all these fantastic stories where somebody was just minding their own business, doing their own little menial job very well. Someone noticed them and they were elevated. Of course, that doesn't happen to everyone. If it did, it wouldn't be a story that you read and you cry and you say, oh, that's so lovely. But if you have a mindset where you can take advantage of every opportunity you're given, then it grows you. It also gives you a chance to develop those, I don't call them soft skills, those human skills of dealing. How do you deal with people? What are the opportunities you put yourself in to deal with people? If you're at home and you're a child, one of 7 children, how do you organize them?
Yes.
That is a skill. That is such a skill, because all your siblings are different. They're different ages, they're different temperaments. And and they have different probably godfathers within the family. Some are aligned with mom, some are aligned with
Yes.
dad. So you're managing that whole situation.
Yes.
Talk
Yes.
about it, but talk about the skills that you've developed. The second one is a lot of youth are now going online, right?
Yes.
Who do you follow when you're online? What do you listen to? Because now we have so much in front of us that we can have access to. Are
Yes.
you only doing things that engage your mind, that don't engage your mind, but just your mind is at rest in terms of its entertainment? Because your mind is at rest when you're being entertained. It's passive. You're just there watching. Things are coming to you. But when you're learning, it is coming in, it's internalized, and you want to now actualize it. You want to effect it. So who are you following? I always ask people, who do you follow on LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn, first of all? Who in your area, your sphere of influence? Forget about online, because some people can't access it. Maybe you don't have a phone, you don't have all those things. And it's who has a phone when they finish high school anyway, or finish university? Maybe university, but if you didn't have a job, you can't have a phone, right? So you're in a situation where, look at the people who are around you in your locality, people of influence. Do you engage with them? How do you engage with them? You cannot tell me that you live in a place where there's nobody of influence. Pick one and be bold enough to say, I want to learn something from you. Can you help me develop my skills in writing, my skills in speaking, or I want to volunteer at your office, or I just want to organize your papers, or I want to, because when you're there and you're in their sphere of influence, you're able to watch them, you're able to learn. You have to have that, I want to develop myself kind of mindset, or else nobody can help you. You can't be spoon-fed. If you want to be spoon-fed, I'm sorry, you'll just stay there waiting for the spoon. It will not come. If you have a growth mindset, the world is your oyster. There's so many opportunities, so many opportunities. Not that it's easy. I speak from a position of privilege. I acknowledge that, but I know that sometimes people don't even put in the effort. They just don't try,
Well,
and then it's that defeatist attitude.
Well, talking about you are speaking from the seat of privilege. I mean, you've worked very hard to be where you are right now. You talk about LinkedIn. I've never met you. We've never met. Actually, I wrote to you through LinkedIn. It took months and months for you to reply, but but here we are anyway.
That is not true. Do you want me to open it and I see? It was not months.
Eddie, that is true. It's taken at least 6 months. I've got evidence, girl. But you're here now. That's what's important. You're here now.
This is what matters.
No.
Like you said, I'm very busy. I'm very busy.
I totally understand that. And that's what actually I tell people, that sometimes you can write somewhere and they don't reply. It doesn't mean they don't like you or they don't like what you're asking. Just maybe that opportunity to reply hasn't come yet. And this is not, I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. Actually, it took time for me to get hold of you. But I understand, your position, you travel, you are everywhere really. And it's not your fault. So for those people that write to Edith and she doesn't reply, it doesn't mean that she does not like people. It's just she's busy. Talking about internet, Edith. So it is very important when it comes to looking for opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah. I want to take you back a bit though. Sometimes writing to the CEO is not the right approach, because first of all, like you said, you won't get feedback. You might not get feedback, right? Today I tried to contact somebody in government. He's fairly senior. He's actually quite senior. And we're in the same circles. But the president, no, not that high. I mean, no, one day. But he had said yes, yeah, let's talk, yeah, we can. And I had told him when I was going to call, but when I called, he couldn't pick my call, and he sort of he answered the call, and then I could hear that there was a meeting going on, and then he cut the call. So for me, you see, I cannot feel bad that I wasn't able to have that conversation with this individual. I just need to look for another way to access him, because I have had the initial contact. So he knows what I need, he knows what I have to offer, and he's willing. That's all I need. Foot in the door. Now I'm going to find out who his PA is. I'm going to send emails. I'm going just make sure the conversation remains alive. But people shouldn't give up. Don't give up. I think it's important to be persistent. Be persistent. That's not a skill I really possess. I'm learning it. Like I said, I'm also being groomed. You have to be grown into these things that are not. It's not really you. I'm not very good at being persistent, but I'm deliberately learning how to do that. Yeah.
But you know, it's here's evidence here. I mean, I said I tried reaching you out, and it took time for you to write, but here we are. And I wish everyone listened to us right now. You know, don't give up. Say, you know, be persistent in what you want. And you talk about CEO. Lots of people want to go there, and they want to kind of jump the queue, isn't it? And that can be also a problem if you just want to go on top of the tree, but you forget the branches. People that actually make that person shine. And so, last question for me, Ed. So, do you actually mentor people yourself?
Yes, I do. I do it formally and also informally. I mean, when you're a team leader, your team members become a very easy source of mentees, and you usually are a few years ahead of them or many years ahead of them. So you might see things that they might not see. So you're in a position, I call it a position of privilege, to be able to pass on the things that were passed on to you to them. It's a very African way of doing things. You know, I don't know, you know, it should come naturally. It takes time, it has to be deliberate, and it has to be done consistently. You don't mentor and then leave. It's every day, all day, every day, all day.
Well, listen, I mean, I can stay here. I listen to you the whole day. I'll leave. I mean, there's some that you're mentioning here. I wish somebody mentioned to me as when I was growing up. But we'll have one experience. Look, I want to say massive thank you very much for being here, for taking your time to speak to us. For those that have just joined us, I was speaking to Edith, who runs Ecotourism Kenya. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Well, listen, and I'm so glad I'm part of the network now. You cannot get rid of me. So I will always be inbox for those introductions. I know you know people that I want. So for sure, you won't get rid of me at all.
No, absolutely. I'd be happy to help wherever I can. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And do have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye for now.